Sos guys, I'm feeling so cute today. A couple of side notes before jumping to the video. Sorry about the background, everything's a mess. I'm gonna be moving in a few weeks hopefully, and I have to replace my doors because I kind of damaged all the doors, so everything's just a work in progress and I'm getting really stressed about how I'm gonna move, but it's fine. So that's what's going on with that. Also, no, I don't really have freckles, and yes, I do love glitter. This is my usual, you know, feeling good about myself, makeup, when I can be bothered to do it. I really want to go to Japan, and I'm obsessed with this whole like kawaii thing that they have going on there, and so I don't care if it looks a bit wild. This is me and I'm feeling cute. Anyway, in today's video, what I want to talk about is the big change that needs to happen. Okay, and this might sound dramatic, maybe I am being a little bit dramatic. Do you know what? No, I don't think I am. What I want to kind of go into is how everything is being done backwards. Everything is being dealt with from the top and then going back and back and back and back and trying to make things better totally the wrong way around. So let me kind of get to the point of what I'm trying to say here. Again, as usual, I'm talking about in this country. I don't really know what it's like for other places, so do let me know. We need to stop trying to help and fix people once they're adults. The thing that needs to be done is intervention in young people, massively. I mean, think about it. Just take a moment and actually think about it. I did a little Google and no, I couldn't find numbers. Well, I could, but I couldn't remember them. But basically, the number of deaths from suicide has been on the rise for the past few years. It's not surprising. We are exposed to more things now than we ever have been, like social media, all of these things about models. Before it was just about being slim, but now it's also about being curvy, or it's also about being, you know, how you identify. There's all these new issues now for people to think about. I'm not saying they weren't there before, but they're just so at the forefront at the moment of our society. Gender issues, weight issues, sexual identity, income. It's harder now than ever to get on the housing ladder. Debt is so easy to rack up. It's not tradition to stay in relationships anymore. If you want to break up someone or get a divorce, you do it like that. Drugs are so much easier to access. You can order things on your phone, like you have people advertising on Snapchat and things like that. Alcohol's cheap. We're exposed to so many things that there are now so many more things to cause issues for us growing up. So it makes sense that these things bring their own mental health issues and that they're on the rise. Obviously, along with other things like, you know, family and trauma and genetics and all these other things. But if you see what I'm coming from now, there are so many more factors to influence us and to make us feel lost and confused. I know last year I went through a massive thing of thinking, what's the point? Like, why am I actually here? What is the point in life? I don't have a purpose. I don't see the point in this. It's pointless. I may as well just end it. People just don't know. Loads of people don't have a sense of identity. So if you think about how many more adults now there are who are suffering with mental illness, and in my live stream somebody described mental illness as a chronic illness, and I actually fully agree. Mental health issues, mental illnesses, whatever, it is a chronic disease. In my eyes, it's a chronic disease. But what we have in this country is all of these thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are going, okay, I have this thing, I can't deal with it, my head feels in pain, my head is in pain, so I'm going to go to my doctor, I'm going to go to my GP, and I'm going to get help. But bearing in mind the NHS and mental health services are massively underfunded, understaffed, there's not enough hospital beds, the waiting list for treatment is months and months and can be years. Diagnosis is late because of access to psychiatrists and things like that. So they give you some medication and that takes some money. So we're just gonna suck that in there. Yep. Take some money from us, from all of us that has to contribute to the system. And then you go, I'm gonna use myself as a reference. Okay, the medication isn't working, I need something else. Okay, so we'll try you on a new medication. That's something else, something else, something else. Maybe it replaces the old one, so it's not much of a difference. Maybe it's more expensive, maybe it's cheaper, who knows? But the medication cost continues in just this one person. Think about the hundreds of thousands of people that are affected by mental illnesses and are in this position. But this is one person. And then I go back to doctors and you say, okay, the medication isn't really working. I feel like there's still something else wrong. And say, oh, that's okay. We can refer you to a counsellor. We can refer you to some talking therapy, let's say CBT. Okay, so you're on a medication now. That is taking in the money. And over here, why am I going like this? Over here, you are going to a counsellor now. So that's sucking into more money. So now you've got two things. Now you've got two things doing this. This is my impression. I know I would say like milking a cow, but I'm vegan, so definitely not going to do it like that. But there's two things now, two avenues consuming money. And then the person, myself, okay, still isn't coping, so they take an overdose. Now you've gone into hospital, so that's more money. Now you're paying for more medication. You've got a bed that is something else that is massive shortage. They're having hospital meals, and you're in there for a few days, 3 days in my case. You're in there for a while, okay, you get discharged. And you go back to the life you were living before. And then you have another episode and you go, okay, this time I need to go to hospital, I need to stay in hospital as an inpatient. So that's more money because inpatient beds are so scarce and so expensive. So now you've got somebody who's taking money from therapy, taking money from education, taking money from a bed physically, and you have all these staff here that are working in this place to try and support this person. And this is a cycle. This keeps on happening. This is constant throughout their lives. You're in and out of various treatments. Okay, the counselling isn't working, so you're going to go back and have a course that's 3 months. That's not working. You're back in hospital. That's not working. So this one person alone, and it's not their fault, this one person has now accessed, I don't know, like 30, 40, 50 different services throughout the course of their life now, in terms, and I'm counting medication services, you know, all of the things that they've now consumed to try and make themselves okay. The number is going up and up and up. In these therapies, they're talking about what's caused this in your childhood, what's made you become this way, what coping skills can you have now to support yourself, how can you change your problematic behaviours, how can you handle situations, how can you avoid triggers, all of these things that you're trying to learn now as an adult. I don't want to say studies show, but I'm sure studies do show, but as somebody who's worked in mental health for a long time, and with young people in full-time care and all of these different instances in my past, it is known that if you help a child, usually kind of under the age of like 13, because their brain is still forming, if something traumatic happens to that child, but then that child is saved from that situation and is given all the intervention they need, all of the help that they need, all of the support, then as an adult, you can change, because their brain is still forming. You can change how their brain is wiring itself and how it is developing and how they're developing. You can change these things. You can teach them the behaviours as a young person. You can teach them to open up more and be able to communicate rather than isolate yourself, which is a big thing in mental health. You isolate yourself and then you continue these things and you feel more lost, and it spirals, it gets worse and worse and worse. But you can teach a young person to be able to deal with these feelings, because all of these things, although some mental health can be hereditary, I would probably guess that the large percentage isn't hereditary, that the large percentage of us is caused in some way by something that's happened at some point in our lives, some kind of dysfunction. So then you look at our adult brains and you can see amongst the scale of mental illness all of these different things, from personality disorder to bipolar to depression to anxiety to all the different types of personality disorder as well, to schizophrenia. All of these things, we have different brains. My brain is different to your brain is different to their brain is different to somebody who is well and has no mental health issues at all, no mental illnesses at all, because everybody has mental health. But somebody who lives a totally mental illness free life, our brains are different to theirs and they're different to each other's. If you intervene in time, you can help that person, and the brain that's started to mould in this weird twisted way can start to revert itself a little bit, and it can start to be well again, to be somewhat, I hate the N word, somewhat normal again. And then this person is now consuming less from the system because they've actually gone on to have a fully functional or a semi-functional adult life. And that can just take a few years, a couple of years, 1 year of intervention as a young person. So what I don't understand, and this is another thing, like, you know, how they don't teach first aid in schools. Why is mental illness, why are coping strategies not taught in schools? I remember very specifically as a child having been exposed to the things that I was exposed to, and I will do another video on my upbringing and my childhood and my journey to where I am now. I will do a video on that at some point, but I can remember very clearly as a child having these feelings of I had no sense of worth, feeling very unwanted and rejected by the people around me. And the way I kind of describe that now is, say a particular event happened. Let's just really simplify it and say that you were trying to talk to your adult and your adult pays no attention to you. Your adult completely ignores you, even though you're here going blah 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 blah, can you help me with this? Your adult completely ignores you and then turns away to their partner and says, what do you want for dinner, darling? Something like that. Just really simple. A situation like that, now that child has registered, okay, I'm not worth listening to. They don't want to know what I'm saying. Because, you know, remember that children, they don't have the capacity that we have as an adult. So we wouldn't look at that and think, oh, maybe they were just busy, or maybe this or that, maybe there's another explanation. We would now take that as, okay, there must be a reason. Children look for reasons in everything. There's a reason why my parents don't want to play with me. There's a reason that I'm not properly taken care of. Very common in abuse, especially like sexual abuse, which isn't something that I've experienced, but in general, there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of shame associated with the person that was on the receiving end. For some reason, you know, whether they've been told it or whether it's your brain has told you it, you can find a way to go, that was my fault. Although my experience wasn't on that path, you could class it as emotional abuse and exposure to a lot of very dysfunctional, traumatic behaviours. I would think there's a reason that that's happened. There's a reason that nothing is changing. There's a reason that what has been going on is continued to be going on. You know, there's a reason that I haven't been protected as such. You don't understand it because you don't have the capacity. You're not a full-blown adult who can think, oh, it's this and this and this. Now I'm an adult, I can look at situations and think it's not that simple. There's a lot more going on here. But as a child, you don't see that. As a child, you just think, oh, okay, it's my fault. Because if it wasn't, then they would have done something about it. So you've got all of these people taking these thoughts, and it might just be a whole series of little things. Like, that day it was this, oh, that must have been because of me. Get home from school, you face this, that must have been because of me. I got shouted at for something that was nothing to do with me. That must be because of me too. And then you've got somebody who grows up as an adult who fully believes that things are their fault. They're the common denominator in all of the problems in their life. They're a bad person. All of these things. Whereas if you had it in schools where you taught somebody that this feeling here, this is called anxiety. If you start panicking and you don't like being in a playground with loads of people around, you can try this. You can try grounding. You know, I tell my eldest, she's very sensitive and she's a lot like me. Of course, I hope she won't grow up with any of the mental illnesses that I have, but she's a lot more panicky, she's a lot more sensitive, she can be a bit shy and on edge about things. She can also be the absolute opposite. But when she does get a bit panicky, I teach her a very simple skill which we all get told to try and do as an adult, which is breathing skills. If she's getting really upset and she's panicking, she's getting anxious over something, I will stop her and say, it's okay, you know, do this with me, and we'll do some deep, slow breaths. Why aren't these things taught in schools? Being able to open up, writing in a journal if you don't feel like you have anyone else that is safe to talk to. We're just leaving it completely untouched. And then we have this person who's a teenager and they act out and they hurt themselves, or they go out and do stupid things and get drunk all the time like I did, or do drugs, or you've got somebody who starts, maybe joins a gang because that gives them a sense of family and protection that they don't have at home or anywhere else. You've got somebody who starts getting into crime because that's the way that they're getting attention, because they're not getting attention any other way. All of these things, it is so easy and it's so simple for somebody to go, that person's problematic, that child's problematic, oh, they're a bad kid, they're bad this, bad that. And then they get to an adult and they're in our situation where we're struggling and we're in despair and we're crying out for help. And it's like, how can you be surprised? How can you be surprised that this is an issue? And then you've got people who take it a step further and they end their own lives. And then you've got the impact that has on that person and the people that care about them, and that can trigger another mental health thing for another person. Because, do you see what I mean? It just goes on and on and on and on and on. It's just a massive web of things that are being completely just failed. We are, as a society, being failed, and there's not enough funding to go into this treatment as adults. But if we just taught some of these things in schools, as a child you go for your GP for a checkup, and you have a physical health checkup. If we just have it that we had perhaps a mental health check-in to see how you're feeling, how are you developing? As a child, we are taught how to look after our physical bodies. You get a cut, You clean it up, you keep the wound clean, you put a plaster on it or a band-aid depending on wherever you're from. You break your wrist in the playground, you go to the hospital, you get a cast, you have a nice little sling, all of your friends sign it and say, I hope you're okay and I hope you get better. You bump your head, you might be concussed, okay, you put ice on it. All of these things that we now know from a child to a teenager to an adult. My kids know what to do if they hurt themselves. The mental pain, the mental damages that we take on, even if you're not exposed to something dysfunctional in your family or whatever, even if you're just a child being bullied, children who get bullied can be just as severely damaged from it as children who've been through abuse or children who've been neglected. All of these things, it just absolutely blows my mind that we live in a society that's just doing everything the wrong way around. And then there's a cry out there. Mental health is becoming a lot more accepted at the moment, a lot more spoke about. People are now recognising we need more funding, we need more training, we need more this. We need intervention. We need intervention. It's so simple. It's not going to fix the problem. It's not going to make anything suddenly go away, and it's not going to make the society suddenly better. But I guarantee that if you started to do this and you started to think about this and to actually approach this, then I 100% guarantee that you would see a difference in statistics. Less people who are actually driven to suicide, less people who physically can't work and who have to then claim more money from the system, and rightly so, because we have a right to be supported, but then claim more money in the form of a disability benefit. I include myself in that. I'm one of those people. It makes me lost for words. Do you know what? I might make a petition. I see all these online petitions, do this in schools, do that in schools. Let's start teaching mental health in schools. It doesn't have to be a massive thing, but just coping skills, basic coping skills in schools, and let's just see what it does, because it can't hurt anyone, can it? It's only going to help people. Sorry that this video has been a bit more of a rant than anything else, but it's another huge thing, and I feel like people with mental illness, and not just us, but obviously that's what I talk about on my channel, so people with mental illness get let down every single place they go, whether it's through work, whether it's through services, whether it's other services like I said, like benefits and housing and just support in general. We're let down, and it's such a shame because it is such an issue and it is such a killer. So yeah, okay, I've run out of steam now. So please let me know what you think to what I had to say, and I'm gonna figure out how to do an online petition, because now I'm like in the zone and this needs to happen. Changes need to happen, please. If you did like my video, do all of the things that YouTubers say to tell me that you liked it, you know, social channel, blah, blah, blah. And I will see you in the next one. Please tell me if you appreciate my look. I really want to go to Japan and go to all of the cute museums. And okay, I'm going to stop. Bye!